The Pope, the Archbishop of Canterbury and the moderator of the Church of Scotland are on an historic three-day visit to South Sudan. They've called it a pilgrimage of peace to the country where more than 400,000 people have been killed in violence since independence 12 years ago. Our religion editor, Lee McBool, is travelling with them.
It's his 40th foreign trip as Pope, but it's a visit like no other. A journey that takes him to South Sudan, but what makes it unique is that for the first time, leaders of other global Christian denominations are visiting with him. When we landed, the moderator of the Church of Scotland, Ian Greenshields, and Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, climbed on board to greet the Pope. They're here together to persuade leaders in this young, troubled nation to put aside their differences for the sake of their people. "I've come with two brothers," said the Pope. "Stretching out our hands, we present ourselves to you and to this people." Since independence in 2011, South Sudan slipped quickly into conflict. It's along tribal and not religious lines, but the leaders are mainly Christian, Catholic, Anglican and Presbyterian. Back in 2019, in one of the most powerful moments of his papacy, Pope Francis kissed the feet of the South Sudanese rivals at the end of a meeting at the Vatican. They promised to work for lasting peace, but little changed. So the religious leaders came here. Does the same thing happen? You make a dramatic gesture and you go away and things don't move forward?
Dramatic gestures are to kick open doors, to create momentum. They don't solve problems. What they do is they may unstick stuck situations, and then they have to be followed up.
And in response to the visit, South Sudan's president says he'll meet rivals who for years he shunned. But in spite of the fanfare and celebration here now, there's much scepticism about the long-term impact. Ali Makboul, BBC News in Juba.
Our BBC Africa correspondent Mercy Juma is there in South Sudan and told us how the Pope's visit is being received.
A very good afternoon from Juba. So there is a lot of optimism, a lot of expectation from the Pope's visit. And you can judge this especially from, just the amount or the number of people who are outside of their homes, who are not on the streets. The streets are pretty clear, and they are in strategic points just waiting for the Pope. When you speak to the people of Juba, they only have one expectation, that the message of hope and reconciliation that the Pope and the other two leaders are bringing will be embraced and really taken up by their political leaders, who the Pope has already met and had very, very strong words to say to. So most of them hope that this will mean something for their country, as much as the Pope comes at a time when just a few days ago there was a clashes in somewhere outside Juba and 27 people were killed, something which unfortunately is not is the norm in this country, that people can fight, people are killed, and it's news that they hear every day, and they're really hopeful that this time and when the Pope leaves tomorrow going forward, the news that they will be getting or coming out of South Sudan will be different.
The number of independent women is on the rise in America, but what about the missing men? More than 7 million men ages 25 to 54 have dropped out of the workforce just this past year. So what's the disconnect, and what does it teach us? Let's ask daughter of Jordan Peterson and podcast host Michaela Peterson. Michaela, thank you very much for being here. So let's start with that question. Why are less men participating in the workforce than just a few years ago?
I think there's a number of reasons. I think the increase in mental illness plays a role. So 50% of people will be diagnosed with a mental illness at some point in their lifetime. And that's got to contribute to men dropping out of the workforce. But the other things that could possibly contribute would be the media's portrayal of men for the last 20 years. They show men as these bumbling fools, and that's got to be hard on men's confidence generationally. And then I think one thing that people don't talk about at all is the birth control pill. And I think that's majorly impacting relationships between men and women negatively. So women, and this has been shown to be true, women choose more feminine men when they're on the pill. And for some reason, people aren't talking about that. That's crazy. That could impact people generationally easily.
So it's almost as if, no, it's great. It's really fascinating. So if as women get more independent and are in the workforce, does that mean men feel less valued as a result? And so consequentially, those types of tough jobs or being in the labor force is not as significant as it was before?
I don't know. I think that people think that the problem is women in the workforce, and I don't actually think the issue is women in the workforce. I think it's more likely that birth control is playing a role and impacting the relationships between men and women negatively, more than women being in the workforce. And that's not even a problem we can solve.
Because families aren't forming and people are staying single longer, and so roles don't develop in ways that traditionally had fortified both men and women.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in order to have children, women need to feel comfortable and safe with a masculine man. Otherwise, why are they going to want to have kids? And so we have women on birth control choosing feminine men and then not wanting to have children. And this is in the literature. This isn't a conspiracy theory. You can look in the scientific papers. So I think that plays a major role.
And then men feel less valuable. And when you feel less valuable, you're less likely to work as hard as you did in the past, especially when those toxic jobs aren't seen as positively as they were in the past. It's fascinating. There's a lot to it.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh,
Last
definitely.
word.
Yeah. No, definitely. The fact that masculinity is now seen as toxic means that the people that women are attracted to, masculine men, are seen as toxic. And that's just confusing everyone. It's confusing men because they don't want to be masculine because they don't think that's what women like. And then it's confusing women because they don't have anyone to be attracted to. It's a disaster.
It is a disaster. Michaela Peterson, thank you so much for breaking that down. Really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Good afternoon. I'm Lindsay Davis at ABC News headquarters in New York. We're coming on the air at this hour with breaking news. Just moments ago, the U.S. shot down the suspected Chinese surveillance balloon off the coast of the Carolinas. A recovery operation is now underway. There have been calls for the U.S. to take this kind of action since the balloon's discovery was first announced on Thursday. And this morning, when asked if the U.S. would shoot it down, President Biden said, "We'll take care of it." Defense officials say the balloon was first spotted in U.S. airspace over Alaska, then seen over Montana on Wednesday, where a brief aviation ground stop was ordered as defense officials considered shooting down the balloon. They decided to hold off, ultimately citing safety concerns for those on the ground. The balloon continued moving across the country, last seen over the Carolinas. The Chinese claimed that it was primarily a weather balloon that had floated into American airspace by force majeure, or forces beyond their control. U.S. officials repeatedly said, though, that that was not true, calling it a high-altitude surveillance balloon. The incident, of course, further sours relations between the world's superpowers. Secretary of State Antony Blinken postponing his trip to China. Let's go straight to ABC News contributor, retired Marine Colonel Steve Ganyard. Steve, what are officials going to be looking for at this point? And can you explain the delay in taking this action?
Yeah, Lindsay, they're going to be looking for the payload. The balloon's been taken care of. It's no longer a factor. But what they're going to look for is the payload that was attached underneath. We saw at least 16 solar panels that would have been powering the sensors that the U.S. believes was beaming data back to China. So you can be assured there's U.S. Navy and Coast Guard ships down below in the ocean waiting for that impact of that payload to start looking for the pieces to put that together to figure out what the Chinese were doing with this balloon over the U.S.
Steve Ganyard, we thank you so much, and we do want to say that this video that we're looking at right now is courtesy of Fox News. Be sure to stay with ABC News and abcnews.com. I'm Lindsay Davis. We'll be back later with World News Tonight.
We're taking a look at images of the Chinese spy balloon that were spotted over the Carolina coast. We have now learned just in the last 10 minutes or so that spy balloon has in fact been shot down over the Carolina coast. It seems as if in the Atlantic Ocean, and we're getting word now from U.S. officials that they are currently gathering up that debris or attempting to gather up that debris. And as I've had conversations with General Twitty along with Mark Polymeropoulos and our own Dan DeLuce over the last hour or so, the likelihood is for our own intelligence gathering to be happening here when it comes to that debris and what they can really kind of glean from this Chinese spy balloon. We're going to be learning more over the next couple of hours as we learn how this operation actually went down, really, and what China's intentions were, and the timing, of course, of all of this, as we've talked about this diplomatic dance happening overseas. Want to bring back in, if we can, to the conversation Dan DeLuce, who is standing by for us and has been following this story. Dan, if you will, kind of bring us up to date on what we've been learning so far. Now, of course, this breaking news that this spy balloon has, in fact, been shot down.
Yeah, so we've really seen the end of at least this episode, this chapter of the episode, since we learned that a Chinese surveillance balloon, according to the Pentagon, was spotted floating over U.S. airspace. We first learned about it when it was over Montana. It made its way through the continental U.S., through the heartland, over Missouri, ended up in North Carolina and South Carolina today, then over the Atlantic Ocean. The U.S. has downed this balloon, and as you said, they are now trying to recover whatever debris they can and to exploit whatever equipment they can retrieve. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, postponed a really important, significant visit to China yesterday after this whole balloon episode came about. So it's obviously aggravated tensions between the two countries. We should add that, according to China, they say this was a harmless weather balloon and not a spy airship. The Pentagon rejects that characterization. I think there's there are many questions here, one of which is what we don't know about what the Chinese have been doing prior to this. Are there other instances of similar balloons in and around North America, the United States, or possibly drones? What have the Chinese been up to? And maybe the intelligence community knows, but they haven't shared that with the public because it's classified. So I think there's going to be a lot of activity around the Senate Intelligence Committee in coming days.